Hello and welcome. My name is Dana Damara. Welcome to Astrocast. So I have been leading these little astrological forecasts for quite some time now. And I usually keep them to new and full moon events. But whenever we have something as powerful as we have coming up here with Saturn moving into Aquarius and Jupiter and Saturn conjunct each other, I feel it's necessary to really get the information out. So I want to go ahead and get started. Those of you who haven't attended one of these before, I just like to put a little disclaimer out there and remind you that this is such a beautiful thing, astrology, where we can look at the skies and create sort of a linear explanation as to how certain planets aspect and create energies with each other. It's a very true and real thing. It's a science. And there's also a sense of intuition around astrology. And there's also a sense of really looking at what's going on in the world and how astrology can affect us. Now, whenever I talk about someone's chart, or if I talk about Saturn moving into Aquarius, if you have Saturn moving into Aquarius on your birth chart, this might affect you completely different than if someone who doesn't have Saturn moving into Aquarius. So it's important to know, my point is it's important to know where these planets hit your chart. So if you don't know about that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to support you in that. It's a very powerful time. So I do want to go ahead and get started. And I just like to take a moment in time where we take a breath or two or three or four to just really center ourselves and bring us to this moment. So just take a moment to kind of ground in and close the eyes and take a few deep breaths in through the nose and then maybe out through the mouth. Maybe before you sat down to listen to this, you were doing something very heady, or whatever. You're distracted, right? And so we just kind of come to this moment peacefully and present. And then once you kind of find your seat, just spin internal gaze. So that drishti, spin it behind the eyes and down into the heart. And just fill your lungs with breath. Fill your internal organs with breath. Breathe all the way to your skin. Allow yourself to be in this place of complete surrender to no thought and just breath. Just really being in a place of remembering that we are this beautiful human walking the planet, and there's all these things going on in the cosmos that we can't control or we don't even really understand, and it's happening. So being in a place of just sort of a sense of awe and wonderment around that. So allow yourself to feel into that idea of how small we really are and yet how much influence we have with our thoughts and the way we function in the world. It's just such a beautiful way to be alive. Take a few more deep breaths, and as always, you can stay here longer. You can just pause the video. But when you are ready to open your eyes, just kind of flutter them open. And here we are. So excited. It has been one heck of a year with the astrology. Oh my God. But we have, if you haven't listened to the new moon recording, the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius, go ahead and do that. But I want you to understand a couple things. We have this amazing event happening on the solstice, 12/21/20, right? Jupiter and Saturn conjunct each other, the great conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius, okay? It's huge. This is huge. This is a major event. And the energy is already starting to like rifle around, if you will. But we've been leading up to this since the beginning of the year. We've been leading up to this since, in particular, January 12th of 2020, when we had that stellium in Capricorn. But before that happens, Saturn moves into Aquarius. Saturn's been sitting in Capricorn since December 19th of 2017. And when Saturn moves into a new realm, a new sign, it shifts. It's like Saturn is the planet of karma, of time, of restrictions, of structures, of strategy, and it's been sitting in Capricorn since 2017. So it's been asking us all these certain questions. I'll get into that in a minute. But what's interesting is it moves into Aquarius just before this great conjunction. And Saturn and Jupiter have been like dancing around. They matched each other once already this year in May. And they're going to do it again on the 21st. So if you haven't already, wherever you are in the world, just take a look to see in the sky at nighttime, about a little bit before and certainly after, you'll see this bright, bright, bright star in the sky. It's probably Jupiter and Saturn together with one another. So I just want you to be aware that this is going on. I'm going to share my screen with you because I want to show you, excuse me. This used to be called the 13 Moon Mystic. I forgot I need to change this. My apologies. And excuse me for 1 second. I got so excited I swallowed air. Okay, so Saturn enters Aquarius on December 17th, 2020. That is at 12:04 a.m. And then it remains in Aquarius till March 23rd. So that means if you were born, if you look at your chart, if Saturn is in Aquarius, you are entering into your Saturn return. Now, if you have no idea what that means, please call me. Please reach out to me because it's lessons. It's like an idea for us. It's a moment in time for us to really shift the way we do things. Saturn is the great teacher. He's all about rules and discipline and patience and responsibility and accountability and maturity and taking accountability for yourself and setting boundaries, and it's your karma. He's the Lord of karma. And so for me personally, my rising sign is Capricorn. So I have been through the ringer with Saturn for the last, 2.5 years. It's been like, wow, pow, 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 pow. And it's not a bad thing. Saturn is no bullshit. Saturn is like, stop playing around and you got to play by the rules. You got to own up to some stuff. Like that's Saturn, right? And so now from December 20th until March 23rd, Saturn will be in Aquarius, where we're creating new structures that revolutionizes our society. And in the new moon recording, I talked about the systems of our society and how a lot of our systems are breaking right now. And if you don't see that, it's okay, you will. But a lot of our systems, they're breaking, or we're noticing how they don't work anymore. They don't work for the way that we want to live life, or we're noticing deep, deep, deep injustices in our systems. And this is because we have quick access to information. We can see everything online now. Everybody pulls out that phone and you can see everything online. And so we're seeing truth at a very fast rate. And so Saturn's like, yep, this is what's been happening. So now what do you want to do, right? And so you want to look at where Aquarius falls in your chart to see what house it's in, and then just to see if Saturn is anywhere nearby. This is what is going on when Saturn goes into Aquarius. And again, I want to talk about this before the Great Conjunction. It's important to understand. If you look toward the bottom, there's all those planets. See that? We have Venus, Mercury, the Sun, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon all sitting there in Capricorn and Sagittarius. And so what I want you to understand is that this is big energy. This is a big deal that Saturn will be conjuncting Jupiter. Jupiter is sitting there. Jupiter's at, I think, 29 degrees, so it's right behind Saturn, but it will be sitting right at 0 degrees Aquarius on the 17th. And that's going to shift everything. So when Saturn shifts in this way, we're moving from like, I can't think of another way to say it except for like being a follower, like herd mentality, like being like following influencers, right? Because this is the way we think it is, to really finding a sense of your own true north. We're moving from false democracy, to a true democracy. We're moving from a false sense of a freedom to understanding what true freedom really means for us. We're moving from, you know, um, uh, addictive ways of being to open ways of being. We're moving from ways that are very structured to speed. We're moving to the in this way. You know, Aquarius is humanitarian, it's altruistic, it's seeing the bigger picture. So we're moving from a very disciplined way of being to and it's not like wishy-washy. It's not, I'm gonna stop share so I always feel so small. It's not like Aquarius is haphazard or it doesn't care. It's more like Saturn is so much about rules that it's set some pretty good boundaries. It's kind of laid the foundation, and now Aquarius can come in with intrigue and curiosity. And okay, that's a great idea. How does that work for everyone? Right? So more inclusive. Um, and Aquarius, too, Saturn is about creating those structures, where Aquarius is about how do we hold space for everyone? How do we include everyone? How do we um, allow everybody to have access to this information? So Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, which is interesting because it's ruled by Saturn, the rule maker, and Uranus, which is freedom. So there is always this ability to find a rationale. So basically what I'm saying is the energy is going to get a little lighter. It will be a little lighter, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be less challenging, because there are, if we're holding on to a structure a certain way, if we're like, well, this is the way it's always been done, but we have to do it this way, this is the way it's always been done, that feeling of this, that resistance is going to create strife. And so when we ask ourselves, well, how are we going to feel with Saturn and Aquarius, it's really, how are you going to feel? How are you going to react when some structure that you have been relying on doesn't work anymore? Are you going to cling to it and go, but this is the way it's always been done? You might. In your very first ego reaction, you might. My invitation to you is take on a breath work practice and just watch yourself and observe. I always like to observe myself when I'm like resisting or restricting myself, you know, go like, oh, there I go again. And then let yourself work through it and then go, okay, now what? You know, because we have to be able to see all sides in order to alchemize those things that aren't going to work anymore. And we're moving into a completely new paradigm shift. It's completely new paradigm shift. Moving from this Saturn to Aquarius is moving Saturn into Aquarius is really a big deal from Capricorn. The big thing with this is, if you think about Saturn and Capricorn with rules and structure, that's Capricorn too. Capricorn is all about, you have to do this, and then you have to do this, and then it's this, and then let's be disciplined and very committed. And, you know, I'm a rising Cap, so I know what that's all about. So Saturn and Capricorn wanted you to take responsibility for yourself. Saturn and Capricorn wanted you to take responsibility for your actions. And Saturn in Aquarius now is like, okay, you have taken responsibility, you can move to the next peg. You know, if there's things that you haven't really sat with or you've been avoiding or averting, just go back to it, check it out, and keep working with it. There's no timeline, there is no time. And if you have Saturn in Aquarius, know that you are now beginning a trajectory of your Saturn return. So things will start to shift for you, and it's good to kind of know what's going on in your chart. So if you have an astrologist, I would say meet with them. If you do not, feel free to reach out to me. In the next 2.5 years, the fight isn't against them so much as it is against our own internal compass. So Aquarius is about being inclusive and altruistic, but also knowing who we are. You know, like, I know who I am. I don't need to follow a system. I know who I am. I know what I want to do. Now, how do I want to include everyone? You know, you're like stable in yourself. And so you don't need to rely on outside circumstance. And then that way you can support other people. Okay, so that's really where we're going, acknowledging the value of humanity, which is really going to be beautiful after this last year. This last year has been tough. So now I want to go into this Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Jupiter and Saturn conjunct December 21st, 2020. This is the solstice, okay, the winter solstice at 11:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm actually teaching a class, a yoga class on that day at 5:30 after sunset, because I want people who are coming, if they can, to be able to watch Jupiter and Saturn in the sky. First conjunction in Aquarius since the early 15th century occurs at exactly 0 degrees. Last conjunct was May. It's moving into the new element. That's what I've been talking about. So this is a paradigm shift. The most recent triple conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in 1980-81. And then again, not again until 2239. So we'll all be coming back in different forms by then. Jupiter and sweet little Pluto conjuncted 3 times this year. And not that that has anything to do with this moment in time, but it just goes to show you that Jupiter has been extremely active this year. And Jupiter is all about expansion, wisdom, justice. Yeah, it's a big deal. Here's the chart. You'll see down below, you'll see Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter are sitting there at 0 degrees. Pluto's pretty close. The sun is in Capricorn with Mercury very close behind. And the moon, the sweet moon, is with Chiron. So if you have Chiron in Aries, you'll feel this as a very big healing opportunity. If you have Chiron in Aries, I'm also a Chiron return. So Chiron is in Aries. Those of you who are about my age, born in 1968, Chiron is sitting in Aries right now. If you didn't know that, it is. And since it's sitting with the moon, it will bring up emotions. It will bring up healing around mother stuff, nurturing stuff, feminine. So allow yourself to be in that space, I guess is what I'm saying. Allow yourself to really acknowledge the healing properties of this the solstice when Jupiter and Saturn conjunct. So for the first time in a couple hundred years, it takes place in a new element. This is going to carry over some of your new moon intentions. So pretend like the new moon lasted from like the 14th all the way through the 22nd. Just be in that state of committing to your practice, committing to your prayer, your ritual. If you don't already, jump on that bandwagon, because it's important. It's important to know where you want to be and how you want to be. Usually, things like this just don't happen. This is astrology that we haven't seen in years. So just be mindful. From a science standpoint, they're closer to each other in the night sky than they have been for centuries. Some people are actually calling this the Christmas of 2020, the Christmas star of 2020, because the brightness from them, the light from these two planets so close to each other, will create the most gorgeous light, and it'll be like what they call the North Star, the star in Bethlehem, the Star of Bethlehem, and it's this energy, you guys, that's ushering in a new world, a new way of thinking, a new way of being. It's the solstice, the winter solstice, is the darkest night of the year, and we've got this Jupiter Saturn conjunction happening on that night. If that isn't about bringing light to the dark, I don't know what is. So I'm going to read this actually. Some astronomers dating back to Johannes Kepler in the 17th century have said that the Star of Bethlehem, this is equivalent to the Star of Bethlehem that guided the 3 wise men to Jesus's birthplace in the Bible. And it was a conjunction like the one set to appear later this month. So, whatever your belief system is, that's not what this is about. This is about watching these with awe, these things that happen in the sky that we have no control over, that we get to witness in this life. I mean, how epic is that going to be, right? And so, what I've read is that you can see it through binoculars, you can see it through a telescope. If you have those sweet little apps on your phone, you can probably, find it in the sky. But the most important thing to do, whether you're of science mind or mystic mind, I'm of both, is pray and meditate and breathe and forgive and forget and just move to the next way of your life. Don't get bogged down with the old, with the stuff you can't change, with the systems that are corrupt. Like, okay, yep. Start asking to be filled with that light so that you know what your gifts are and how you can support other people. If we get bogged down in the negativity and if we get bogged down in the negativity and we get angry or resentful or frustrated, or we get really judgy or whatever, that's not going to help humanity. What's going to help humanity is if we acknowledge our strengths and acknowledge that we all have this beautiful light within us, and ask how we can share it. And you can't really share it fully until you fully let go of your own resistance. So this Saturn into Aquarius and Jupiter and Saturn conjuncting each other on the 21st is a really powerful time. Again, I'd love to read your chart for you just to see where everything is, and maybe it can help you set intentions. But honestly, the biggest thing you need to know is that globally, it's a powerful time. We've experienced a super challenging year, very challenging year for everyone, and it's time to kind of shift the tide a little bit. And we do that within first. So you want to make sure you really look within first. Okay. So I'm going to just share real quick. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen so you can get my little website. So here's just if you want to get a hold of me, right? So my social media, my website. I do want to say that the class that I'm teaching on the 21st, it's a yoga and breathwork class, and we're going to be doing distant Reiki. So we'll be offering Reiki sessions, distant Reiki online, and also crystal bowls. So it's a sound bath at the end, meditation, a little bit of yoga, gentle yoga. It's late in the day, so I don't like to do a power class at the end of the day. And I put the time to 5:30 Pacific Standard Time so that if you wanted to witness Jupiter and Saturn in the sky before the solstice, you could. But I just encourage you to get really clear on your intentions and just get really clear in your heart and in your mind. This is a beautiful time to be alive. I wouldn't want you to miss it. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. Again, my name is Dana Damara. Very, very, very grateful to be here. Have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day. Namaste.